It is Thompson to Clark. Post game after the Giants just beat the Astros. We recapped this game for Bleacher Report. So we'll have you. We're gonna set up this recap. We'll hang out here for a few minutes. Episode 201 since we celebrated episode 200 last time. So the Giants win 4-3. It was an insane game, like is the case often, maybe more often than we'd like. Extra innings, all the good stuff. But before we get there, I wanted to get your thoughts on overall your current vibe with this team. It is. I was kind of hoping to do this when they were at 500, because at 500 tells you it actually gives you a place to be either super optimistic or super pessimistic. Now they're one game under 500, so we're pretty close here. But we're getting into the middle of June soon, and getting close to the All-Star break and all that stuff, and you can actually make some pretty good you can actually do some pretty good analysis on the team 67 games in or wherever we are. But overall, we've gone through the ups and the downs with this team already in just these 67 games. I think they're still in like the third wild card spot, even though they're not. They're not at 500. Or if they're not, they were really close as of the other day. But overall, like where are you at? Are you happy with the team? Are you so with the team? Are you disappointed with the team?
I'd say it's so hard to be disappointed with the team because of the injuries that they've suffered so far. I mean, Snell is back out again. Conforto was out and is back. It's kind of tough. Ahmed has been down for a while now. Lamont Wade Jr. So I wouldn't say disappointed. I'd say I've just because I did absolutely expect more from this team at this point of the season. But the fact that they can come off of a 6-game losing streak and then win a series in Texas, and then win the first game of the series at home against Houston. When you see that's the type of stuff that gives me hope for this team. That I say, well, they can turn it around. They can play with some of the better teams. I know, everybody's going to say the Rangers. They're defending World Series champions. They've got Bruce Bochy at the helm. The Houston Astros are still the Houston Astros. They can still hit the crud out of the ball. As we saw tonight, it didn't take much. They run into a couple of pitches and they can all of a sudden score some runs, get some beautiful bunts down. I don't know. I mean, I'm so I don't know with this team. That's a tough one to answer, but I'd say at this point I'm not disappointed because of the injuries. I want to see a fully healthy Giants team, because Webb is just starting to become Webb again. Kyle Harrison had a really nice game tonight, and we're going to talk about him. And if Snell could get it going, Robbie Ray is starting to throw. So I think I look at this as, okay, we hit close to 500 at this point of the season. If this team can play 20 games over 500 the rest of the season, the rest of the way down the line, this is a team that easily goes to the playoffs. So I guess I have to say I'm happy with where we're at right now.
20 games would be like what do we got, like 80 games left? No, about 90 games left.
Yeah.
So they'd have to be like what, 50 now, 55-35, something like that.
You're asking me to do math this late at night.
I mean, so here's if I think about it that way, then I think there's no way they're going to do that because they're just not that kind of team,
right?
But that is how we should hope that we should all hope that they can get on a run, right?
And in stretches they are, though. That's the thing. In stretches that we've seen this season, They are that team that could, but they can't sustain the runs is the problem
And then they go
because
on the run on the other way.
yeah, and then an injury happens, and then
Mhm.
all of a sudden now you've got to shuffle your lineup. You've got Wisely at shortstop, and again Ramos has been a great surprise. He's still mashing the ball. He's still getting on base at a crazy clip. And then, like you were saying, if you can get Lamont Wade Jr. back, and you get Lamont Wade
That's
Jr.
key.
and Elliot Ramos at the top of the lineup, and those guys are getting on base, and those are your table setters, and Soler can start hitting fastballs, then all of a sudden, you've got a team that can go on a run, because then all of a sudden you've got this great pitching. Yeah, they got to shore up the bullpen, and you can do that in a trade. You don't have to give up the farm to get a bullpen arm. That should be the new motto. You don't have to give up the farm to get a bullpen arm. Let's put that on a banner somewhere. So yeah, I mean, I think that I think we've seen it. I think we've seen that this team can go on a run.
I think if I was to look at all of the things that happened so far, Jung-Hoo Lee out for the season.
Mhm.
Blake Snell being a negative so far. Like he's not even average. He's been a
No,
negative.
his ERA is something that the Giants can't overcome. The Giants can't score 8 runs a game, so that's yeah.
And so Alex Cobb not being able to come back from injury, and the team thought that he'd already be back. Like it was a possibility that he could already be back, and he doesn't seem like he's anywhere near coming back. So those things right there, if you'd have told me in the beginning of the season, all of those things would be that way, my thought would be they'd be 10 games under 500, not one game under 500. So I'd say if I looked at it that way, I'm okay with where they are. Now, if they just play 500 ball for the rest of the season, then they're not going to be the third wild card, more than likely. And so that I won't be happy with that either. They do have to play from here on out above 500 baseball to make sure that they do get in the playoffs. And if Alex Cobb does come back, and if we get to see Robbie Ray in that last third of the season, then those are just thumbs up for us, and those can be good. Yeah. But then you also have to think about, what are Jordan Hicks and Kyle Harrison going to be like when those guys are ready to start playing? Are those guys not going to be as good as they are now? So those are things you kind of have to outweigh. But I like what you said about Lamont Wade and Elio Ramos. If that is your 1-2 punch against lefties, maybe Ramos hits leadoff and Wade hits second. Mm-hmm. Against righties, maybe Wade hits leadoff and Ramos hits second. I'm still concerned about who's going to be that pop, that dependable pop in the middle. Patrick Bailey's not a power hitter, though he was hitting third today and he had great at-bats. If Patrick Bailey is hitting third for you, you're not doing well. He should be hitting sixth or seventh, or as he grows and as he becomes a better hitter, then maybe he can hit a little bit higher in the order, but he doesn't have the natural power that you need. So it's got to be Conforto, and it's got to be Soler. It's got to be Yaz.
Chapman.
Obviously Chapman didn't play.
Chapman. He's been out a couple of games, but
he has been in that third spot a lot. But it's going to be those guys that you're depending on, because what you're getting out of Ramos right now is just an absolute positive that you didn't expect. And I think we'd probably be foolish to expect him to hit over 300 for the rest of the year. It'd be great if he does, because then he sort of fulfills the potential that we've all hoped that he had. And I mean, is he going to be an all-star? Probably not. It's if the Giants, the Giants' one all-star right now is probably still, I don't know, I guess it's going to be Logan Webb. You could, I don't know what Doval's numbers look like against other closers, but the closer position in baseball is not what it once was. Lots of closers are kind of struggling. So I guess I would say I'm okay, and I guess slightly happy with how they've played with the losses, but man, the luck has to turn at some point, and you got to get something out of Soler, and you got to get something out of Chapman. Not Chapman, Conforto. Like, Chapman's he's such a plus on defense that you kind of live with some of the offense. But look, the guy's got on base like 25 straight games. Yeah. So he is hitting the ball and playing a lot better. But yeah, so, optimism. I don't know if I would call it optimism. I would just say they just need to play how, with the talent that they have. And then when you bring all the other stuff back, then hopefully it does bump you up a little bit. Like, I can't imagine Blake Snell is, the worst starting pitcher in baseball for the rest of the year.
No.
He's
a second half pitcher
back.
too.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is he's gonna come back, hopefully quickly. And he had a good outing. So he's going to come back. And again, I think he feeds off of other pitchers too. And he sees Webb starting to kind of turn it on. He sees Kyle Harrison, have a good outing. And I think he wants to get out there and be competitive too. He's not going to lose his spot in the rotation. So it's not like he has to do it for that, but he wants to help this team get into the playoffs. He's on this team this year. At this point, I mean, it's way too early to talk about, but if he continues on this pace, do you start to think about, is he opting in for the 33 or 35 million next year? But I don't, I still think he could probably go out on the open market and get like a 5 or 6 year deal somewhere.
I mean, look, even if he does, it's probably still worth the risk for him to do that. So, all right, for the rest of this week, Giants Astros, Tuesday night, 6:45. It is Blanco versus Hicks, and then day game on Wednesday, Logan Webb versus Framber Valdez, and then one of the worst teams in baseball comes into town this weekend. I don't even want to mess with this Angel series. They need to sweep this series.
Yeah,
they cannot let a bad team come in and kind of ruin things, because then you're going, after this weekend, you're going to Chicago, and the Cubs currently are, they're kind of like us, but up and down, but similar records and such. But going into Wrigley is a little bit of a different story sometimes. So you got to take care of business. Cardinals, Giants really should beat the Cardinals too. But again, being on the road, a little bit of a different story, that Midwest heat and the odd times that they play. Sometimes
that's where we're having a problem right now, is the Giants are 5 games under 500 on the road. So that's got to change too. Talking about going
just be
forward.
500 on the road.
Exactly.
500.
That's
win the majority of the games at home, and I think you're kind of in good shape. So so should be a good rest of the week of baseball. They already got one. If you split the next 2 against Houston, I want to see a sweep with the Angels, and then you're several games over 500, and you're kind of hot going on to the road. So I think that could definitely help out. All right, so we're going to play the recap that we did for Bleacher Report. We went through the entire 10th. We described all of the chaos and our frustration with, even though the Giants won, we were still kind of frustrated with how they played in that last inning. But hey, they got the win. And so ultimately we were happier than we were not. So let's throw it to our recap, our post-game recap on Bleacher Report. All right, we are live after the Giants come from behind victory against the Astros in the 10th inning, a game in which it was 1-1. And watching the game, I would not have been surprised if it was 0-0 going into extras, because of how both pitchers were throwing very well. And then in the 10th inning, everything exploded, Brad, as is the case a lot of times when you have these extra inning games. You put a runner on second and no outs, and creates opportunities, and these teams start scoring runs. One thing I want to say before we're going to recap the 10th, because the 10th is just nuts. But one thing I wanted to mention, I think it was last week where I was saying how the Astros weren't that good, and I looked a little deeper into their statistics. They're one of the better hitting teams in baseball. They're probably a top 5 hitting team in baseball. Their pitching is kind of what's holding them back. But I also looked at their record, and their record is not as good as it should be. They, when it comes to runs scored versus runs against, they're actually in the positive, which is kind of funky that they're that many games under 500. So I said that to say this, which is I came into this game thinking, the Giants really need to take advantage of teams like the Astros. And then I looked and I was like, wait a second here. The Astros are probably a slightly better team than the Giants. So this win is actually a really good win for them to come back and let's get through the 10th. But I wanted to know, if you thought the same thing about the Astros as we were kind of looking into the stats and stuff for this week.
Yeah, I mean, they've been one of those teams, no Dusty Baker this year. They got a new manager and they, they still really haven't found what they're looking for. They haven't put together the season necessarily yet. Kyle Tucker got hurt, almost a week ago, fouled that ball off of his shin. It sounded like it busted. I mean, it was so loud. It sounded like a gunshot. But yeah, pitching wise, Verlander's still out. Most of their pitching staff has not lived up to who they normally are. So coming into the series, I kind of thought, well, Houston, they're on the West Coast. They're out here a little bit of a swing. We have a tendency to make rookie pitchers, young pitchers look really, really good. And we did a little bit tonight with Arrighetti, because you see that name as a Giants fan and you think of Righetti. So
yes,
Arrighetti. He started out rough this season as a rookie pitcher, has turned it on as of late, the last 3 or 4 outings. But he does have a ton of walks. So I thought, well, tonight coming in the game, if we could be patient, we can get some runners on. But it seemed like Patrick Bailey was the only one who was patient with this guy. And he drew 2 of the 3 walks on the night. But yeah, it was one of those games where I thought, one of these series, because this is game 1 of the series, that I thought, okay, it's going to be tricky. It could be a trap. We're coming off of a fantastic series in Texas.
Yep.
They take 2 out of 3. Yesterday was kind of a stinker. They lose 7-2. But they still win the series 2 out of 3. And Texas is scuffling also. So I thought, cool, now we get to come home, kind of dig into the Astros a little bit and start to kind of put together another good part of the season after you lose 5-6 in a row. So yeah, again, these series are always, it's tough. It's baseball.
These teams are very well matched against each other, just like the Rangers series too. Very well matched. The Diamondback series, very well matched. Mm-hmm. We'll play the Angels in the next series. Now, the Angels are not a good baseball team. Right. So the Giants, we hope that the Giants actually take care of business there. But these last series, after getting kind of stomped by the Yankees there, where they definitely showed you the difference between, a sort of a wild card contender and like a World Series contender. And then they go and slug it out with the Dodgers. And, Dodgers came off looking pretty good in that series.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like that's what I liked about it. It's like, look, I don't expect the Giants to beat the Yankees 3 out of 4, 2 out of 3. I expect them to be competitive. I don't expect them to lay down. Same with the Dodgers. Has that series when the Dodgers came here was not fantastic, but they did win 1. But it's against the teams that they should beat or that they should be equal to, where you really want to see them play good baseball. And tonight was one of those games. So let's just fast forward all the way to the end of this game. You could have summarized innings 1 through 9 as 2 young pitchers faring very well.
Yeah.
In the 9th, the Giants went to their closer. Doval had a little bit of a scary 9th there. Josh Hader came in the 9th for the Astros. I think Wilmer Flores got a base hit, but otherwise he kind of went through those guys. And so now you turn to the 10th, and the Giants turn to young left-hander Eric Miller. And there's the ghost runner on second, of course. And Trey Cabbage bunts, and Miller whirls around, throws it to Wilmer, And live, I thought he was safe. The umpire says out, and he's clearly safe on the replay, and they challenge it. And so now you got runners on first and third and no outs. Then Victor Caratini hits a fly ball to drive in the runner. Houston takes a 2-1 lead. Still runner on first, 1 out. Trey Cabbage steals second base, and then it's a little bit of where I started to think, oh man, they're going to put like 6 runs on us.
Yeah, I thought at that point the wheels are falling off and things are about to get nasty.
So Jose Altuve just puts down like a fantastic, like it's like this dude's
textbook, absolute
this
textbook.
Dude's just a good baseball player. Like I don't know what else to say. And so they can't throw anybody out. So now it's first and third. And here's where I'm like, okay, I'd almost rather have first and third than just a runner on second because of the live double play that is still in play. Alex Bregman comes up, and you and I earlier today, we were talking about how Brett Wisely is not a natural shortstop. He does not field a baseball like a natural shortstop. He fields a baseball like a utility infielder. He that you can tell who grew up playing shortstop because of how they field the baseball. There's a rhythm to it. There's a slickness to it. And Brett Wisely is sort of a little bit of stationary. Like he really has to rush sometimes to get his throws off because his footwork, or as Shaquille O'Neal would call it, his feet work is not the best, right? But because of the injuries to Nick Ahmed, who would generally be there in that position if he's not hurt, Tyler Fitzgerald has to get sent away. Casey Schmidt has to play third because Matt Chapman's hamstring's barking on him. So the player is Wisely there. And we were mentioning earlier in the game that, he was getting a lot of action, but it was a little scary. I was like, man, none of this looks very slick and clean. Everything looks like it's a little bit of a hassle for him to make these plays. And so Bregman hits a ball up the middle, and I'm you and I as Giants fans are, we're a little biased here for who may have been the greatest shortstop in Giants history, in the previous years. I am on the record in a text to you as saying Brandon Crawford fields that ball, double play, we're out of the inning with only the 1 run. Now, Brett Wisely, he didn't react great to it. He didn't even really dive. I thought he should have at least dove. Ball gets through. Bregman gets a base hit. They score. So now it's 3-1. And then Alvarez flies out. And then Randy Rodriguez comes out and gets a ground out from Jeremy Pena. So the Giants go into the bottom of the 10th, and they are now down 3-1. Now, you and I have lived through lots and lots of torture. Right. Sometimes, I'll say this more about me because you are more positive, you're more optimistic on the team at times than I am. I kind of hate watch sometimes, just hoping that my negativity and frustration inspires them to play baseball. And I was like, oh gosh, 2 runs. We could barely, get a few guys on base during this game. Like now we're expected to get 2 runs. And then almost immediately they absolutely shut me up because not only did they attack the baseball, but the Astros were in the business of kind of playing some shoddy defense. So Casey Schmidt is the ghost runner, and Brett Wisely, in a redeeming way to me, I'll say that I was like, okay, that's redemption. Now, I don't know if anybody else is really thinking that he should have fielded that ball, but he gets a base hit. So it's 3-2 immediately. Brett Wisely himself had a good day at the plate, 2 for 5. His average is up to 308. He is proving himself as a Major League Baseball player in the time that he has been given. Now he's probably always, until he's not, going to be the guy who's got options and who's kind of bouncing around. But look, man, if you can hit the baseball, you're going to find a spot on this team, and they're going to look elsewhere for guys to send down. Because you look at the top of this lineup today, it was Brett Wisely, it was Elio Ramos, both hitting over 300. Poor Elio had a little bit of a brain fart here that we'll talk about, but they're getting on base and they're hitting the baseball. And when it comes time for other players to be healthy, you want to make those decisions for Farhan and Bob Melvin very hard. And I think Wisely's doing an awesome job at making their lives hard when it comes to making more decisions as we get, as more players come back to the main roster.
Yeah. And I know what you mean, that Crawford probably would have made that play. I still think he might have kept that ball on the infield in the top of the 10th. And a run still would have scored. But I mean, initially when it happened, it shot through, and Wisely made such a strange route to the ball.
Yeah, he just kind of gave up on it almost immediately.
Yeah, at first I thought, oh, they were playing the infield in. You had a runner at third. They were trying to, and then I thought, not in extras at this point. I don't think you're playing the infield in. And then I go back and watch the replay, and I thought, oh no, there was no way he was was that baseball.
Yeah, like you said, it's all about anticipation and footwork and being
it's
on
not
your
like
toes.
He was flat-footed or anything like that. He was ready to go. The thing was the anticipation. The ball goes over the mound, and I think maybe he thought, oh, it's going to come off the mound and it's going to come towards me, but it was hit so hard it just skipped right over the mound and kept going on its trajectory right up through to center field. The Astros, they absolutely did everything right in the top of the 10th inning, and then you get to the bottom of the 10th inning, and they didn't really do anything right. So, I mean, an error at shortstop, a couple of other anticipatory plays. The only thing that kind of bailed them out, and extended things was, like you said, the brain fart with Ramos at third. But again, I think it's because the shot he took off the bat to Soler to his shin, I think Ramos was in pain, man. I think he was worried about his leg more than anything. I wouldn't be surprised if he misses tomorrow. I mean,
yeah, that was right.
That was quite a shot. That was right off of the shin. So
all right,
he went down and he looked into the dugout like, guys.
I wonder, did they have anybody who could have come in to run for him?
I don't know who they had left. I don't know who they had left on the bench at that point. But at that point, when you're talking about sack fly, he's going to make it no matter what. He's probably running on adrenaline at that point as well. So,
all right. So Wisely singles. So it's 3-2. Now he's on first base. Ramos is up. He hits a ball. He didn't hit it tremendously hard, but he hits it to Jeremy Pena's backhand. So Jeremy Pena is trying to make this backhand play and turn the double play all at the same time. I'm not even sure if he throws Wisely out at second. He had to veer so far to his backhand. So he kind of takes his eye off the ball. It scoots through. It's a hit for Ramos. More so, Jeremy Pena should have definitely tried to get the one out. That's what you always want to do, but he's trying to win the game. So good for the Giants, bad for the Astros. And so now runners on first and second, still no outs. Patrick Bailey, who, like you said, has had a great eye all night long. He ends up 1 for 2 with a run scored, an RBI, 3 walks, and he shoots one into center field. So Wisely easily scores. And this could have been another brain fart by Ramos. Ramos takes a little bit too much of a turn around second base. Yeah. And he almost gets thrown out at second. And at first, this is another one where on real life play, I was like, oh, this dude's out. But then they showed the replay, and he did beat the throw. I think the tag was probably a bad tag, on those bang plays, calling it a bad
and
tag.
the throw was a little high too.
Yeah. So now you got runners on first and second, still no outs. The game is tied. Michael Conforto is up, and he hits a little ground ball up the middle. And the pitcher, Rafael Montero, I don't know, what was he doing? Did he just...
I think he was just having a hard time finding his footing while he's standing on the mound trying to field a ground ball. He came off of the mound, and his left foot kind of, dropped down off the mound halfway. And then all of a sudden, before he knows it, he's kind of overshot the ball. It hits the backside of his glove, the right side of his glove, and then shoots back to his right. So I think it was just kind of an anticipation play where, again, he thought he, didn't take into account the, the level that you drop off when you're coming off of the mound. And it was hit kind of hard back to him. But yeah, I thought it was a tailor-made double play. I mean, but then again, he's got to turn, or he would have come home because bases were loaded at that point, right?
No, it was just first and second. Yeah.
So he would have had to turn and go to second, throwing off of the mound at that point. So anything, I mean, that could have been the end of the game. He could have thrown it into center field, and then all of a sudden, the ball game's over too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a tough play to make. But again, like I said, top of the 10th, Astros did everything perfect bunts, perfect base running. Everything was fantastic for the Astros in the top of the 10th, bottom of the 10th. And they couldn't field their positions, and that really helped the Giants kind of open things up. You know how it goes as a Giants fan. We don't necessarily, and we talked about this last week, we don't always get the breaks. And when we do get the breaks, we don't always capitalize on getting the breaks, because we're not that type of team that's going to, you're going to make a mistake. Well, now we're going to hit a 3-run home run. We don't necessarily do that. We're going to dink and dunk you to death. But if you open it up for us, we are going to make something happen. That's just kind of what the Giants do. They try to, at least. And it's, a single, double, and then Slater shot off of the wall. Pretty exciting end to the game. But yeah, I think that's exactly what Montero was doing, just kind of coming off the mound there at a weird angle.
All right, so now we got the bags loaded. Still no outs. Ramos is on third. Can we talk about Soler a little bit here? He frustrates me so much.
Yeah.
He's frustrating himself. I'm not more frustrated than he is, obviously, but he changed his shoes today. He was wearing some yellow, pretty sweet spikes. They were
Kruko didn't like
yellow.
He
didn't like them.
No, he didn't like them, but I liked them. I thought they were cool.
They said, he and Kuiper were having a conversation about, when you're slumping, there's nothing better than changing your shoes to get out of a slump.
Yeah.
He is so mixed up right now. He is so afraid of chasing the slider that is not even on the outside corner. It's the one that is like 2 feet outside that he just can't lay off of. And he is transfixed on not getting beat by this pitch, yet he's constantly getting beat by this pitch. So much so that he's taking fastballs, in the happy zone, because he's looking slider. And Kruko even mentioned it. He's like, it was either Kruko or Kuiper just said, at some point you just have to stop guessing. And that's what he was doing. So, he even when he hits the slider on the outside corner, it's just a ground ball to third base because he's trying to pull the ball instead of taking it the other way. So he hits a ball that is just a couple of feet foul, but he hits it so hard that Ramos, he tries to hurdle this baseball, but it gets up on him so quick he can't even get his leg up high enough. And it hits him right in the shin. And I was waiting for Kruko to start talking about a shin burger, but I guess the game was too tense. He couldn't bust out the jokes when you're trying to win the game. And poor Ramos you could tell he's gritting his teeth. And, you've been on a baseball field where you took one off the shin before, and it smarts immediately, and it just gets worse and worse and worse throughout the day and so he's going to be hurting.
That's why I think that's why tomorrow I wouldn't be shocked if they have to, let him take a little bit of a rest to get some weight off of it for a day.
So then Soler hits a little chopper to the right side, and Ramos freezes. He's about to go, and then he stops. Now, there are two problems with his thought process here. The first problem is the bases were loaded, so he has to go on a ground ball. If he goes immediately, I think he scores. I'm not 100% sure, but if he gets a good jump, it's going to be bang, bang at home plate.
Yeah.
The second thing, even if it wasn't a force and you're trying to win this baseball game, I'm sure Matt Williams was sending him on that little dribbler. The defense just made 3 bad plays in a row, or two bad plays. You're anticipating that they're going to make another, so you got to be aggressive. And so even if he was right and the bags weren't loaded, he still did the wrong thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunate for Ramos. After having, he still got 2 hits. He didn't hit anything super hard. He got another bloop shot, but hey, 2 hits is 2 hits. So I don't want to make this a bad thing about him because they come out of the game with the win. But so now it's bags loaded again because they get the out at home, and now it's up to one Austin Slater, who not the most popular guy on the team these days, because him being healthy means that you have to send down a young player, someone like Luis Matos, and I think the fan base wants to see Matos. Now, you and I, if Matos had not just gone through a horrendous slump where he's not even really hitting the ball hard at all, I think we might have been, hey, what can we do here? But at that point, Matos is not playing good baseball. So he made it easy. I was talking about wisely making it hard on the Giants when they have to make another move. Matos made it quite easy because he just wasn't having competitive at bats. And the fan base, the very fringe, the lunatic fringe of the fan base, they want Austin Slater's head because, and this is something that we've talked about with both Austin Slater and Mike Yastrzemski, these guys would be fantastic 4th outfielders. And because the Giants don't have that one piece, and maybe if Jung-Hoo Lee doesn't get hurt, maybe it's a little bit different, but because they have to play so much, you depend on them a lot, and they're not going to be fantastic starting outfielders. There are flaws in their game, but we know that Austin Slater can hit lefties well. We know that he's going to be decent in the outfield, and so he comes up, bags juiced, he hits a ball. I did not think this was going out off of the bat. Dwayne Kuiper was unsure. Dwayne Kuiper starts his home run call. The ball bounces off of the wall, and he must have counted to 5 Mississippi before he finished that call of the ball hitting the wall and the Giants winning the game. I don't know what he was doing.
I honestly thought he just completely lost the side of the ball, and then he sees, the celebration, the run scored, the walk off, and I think he's thinking, did it go over the fence? I couldn't quite see it, but yeah, that was probably the most delayed walk off call that he's ever had in his career.
And in the chat is Proc Birdie, not Brock Purdy, but Proc Birdie, with the comment that Austin Slater is the man. Yeah, today he absolutely is. And so they win the game. Where are you with these extra inning rules? Because I like the fact that they speed up the game, but they're still so softball to me.
They are, and I keep hearing now this year it's become ghost runner.
Yeah.
And
They
that's,
say
I
ghost
mean,
runner a lot. Not really.
Yeah, when we were kids playing wiffle ball, we had ghost runner. So that's what throws me off when they say ghost runner.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's your extra innings runner.
Yeah,
I know
we would say
that's a
ghost
mouthful.
runner, and it was truly a ghost runner because
Yeah,
we
yeah.
would just we didn't have enough players to put someone at second, and so we
Yeah,
just had to envision somebody at second.
it's an automatic runner. I like it. Again, we talk about it. We've talked about this in the past. We're old guys. We like to go to bed.
Yeah.
We're going to bed at a decent time because we're
Look,
not going into the 13th or 14th inning
and
tonight.
we can do this show at a decent time for
Yeah.
people to check in on it too. I've been to games where I had to leave Oracle because if I didn't leave, the BART trains were going to stop running.
Yeah.
And there was a game that the Giants played against the Arizona Diamondbacks. I want to say I left the game like someone may even remember this game, and my innings are probably off, but I feel like I left in like the 13th inning, drove home. Now this is from San Francisco to Gilroy, California, which is like a 70-minute drive.
Yeah.
And I got home in my garage as the Giants won the game.
Oh my gosh.
Like imagine staying that whole game.
Yeah, I'm happy we don't have those games anymore. I wouldn't mind starting the automatic runner in the 11th inning. I think I'd be fine with that. I mean, there's variations to things.
We've talked about that before. Like the 11th
we've talked
or 12th.
about it. Just like with the contested balls and strike. I mean, again, I was at an Aces game, Reno Aces, AAA affiliate of the Diamondbacks a couple weeks ago, and in AAA. They have, you have, I think, 3 challenges on each side. You can challenge a ball and a strike. And if you are correct, you get to keep it. So you get 3, and you can end up with 3 at the end of the game if you use them, if you continue to use them correctly. And so little things like that, I think, help speed up the game and get the game right.
Yeah.
So I'm all for speeding up the game. But I'm also for getting it right. So I say give them 10 innings to get things, and if you don't, then the 11th inning, you can bring in a runner. What I don't want to see is 10th inning, an automatic runner at second. And then later on, we make rule changes where now we're in the 11th inning. We're going to put a runner at second and third.
Right.
I don't want to change it that way.
Or
if anything, loosen it up a little bit.
If you want to still have a runner, maybe in the 10th, the runner starts at first, and then in the 11th, then you always have someone at second. You could do something like that.
And yeah, I'd be good with that too. You're going to see a lot more bunts.
Yes.
Again, the Astros were perfect with their bunting tonight. They were really, really good. And they had guys who could put them down, and they had guys who could, get down to first very quickly and put pressure. And that's what you're saying too about Ramos at third. Just run home. And again, you put pressure to try to turn, because it looks like they were going to try to turn a double play. And maybe they confused them to the point where they couldn't turn the double play. Because if Ramos was running to home automatically, I think maybe the Astros think, okay, here we go. Boom, boom, home to first. Although Soler does run pretty well.
Maybe if it was Wilmer, they had a shot at it.
Wilmer had a double, but what was that in the 9th inning? I think it was. He had to hit a double. It should have been a double, but he ended up getting a single out of it. But he's got some bulky knees after playing on that.
Oh, I'm surprised he played today, because I didn't think he was going. Well, I mean, he came in to pinch hit, and then he had to play defense, and then he was in the bunt play. The poor guy's like, I just need a day off.
Knees are barking at him.
So that was the game, and the Giants win. I think we should talk a little bit about Kyle Harrison, because the last show that we did, I was mentioning how him being a 2-pitch pitcher essentially is a little rough when one of those 2 pitches is not on. But the fastball looked great today. He was, it's just so, like, when I think about going up to bat, and you think about, okay, what is the pitch that I am looking for. If you're looking for a pitch that is somewhere down the middle and a fastball, like you're looking for that pitch, and he basically goes, okay, I'm going to throw a fastball. It's gonna rise a little bit. Hit it if you can.
Yeah.
And when he is on, he gets so many strikeouts because these guys are swinging through this fastball, and then he can throw that little slider when they get too, when they're too comfortable thinking fastball. And it worked so well today. He was around the plate. What were his final statistics were? I think he had was it 4 strikeouts in 6. They had taken the lead off of a Yaz. Was it a triple? Did Yaz hit a triple?
Yaz did hit a triple. Would have been a home run in 29 other ballparks.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the brutal one, man.
They took the lead, and then immediately the Astros came back and scored. But you're talking about a guy who doesn't always pitch into the 6th inning as well, but he was pitching well enough into the 6th. And then who comes in to clean it up? Our guy Sean Jelly cleans it up. Ryan Walker, and then Duvall. And unfortunate for Miller. The other thing I don't like about these extra inning games is the statistics. These poor pitchers have to inherit this ghost runner at second base, and it affects their ERA when the runner scores. I think that's totally unfair. But
yeah, that's the other thing. If they could fix that so that doesn't affect your ERA. I mean, it's a ghost runner, right? It's a ghost. Technically, it doesn't exist. So why is somebody getting tagged with that run?
Maybe it's half a run. Maybe it should count as half. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but it just seems unfair. This entire the way that baseball works today, it almost feels like the pitchers are the ones in control because of how many you can bring in and seeing all these different live arms. But at the same time, then when it goes to extras, they're kind of jacked when they have to start these innings. So yes, Harrison was awesome, and it's good to see. What you want to see is the consistency for him to come out the next game and kind of replicate this performance, because what happens is we're going to see that 3 or 4 inning labor job where he walks a few people and he's always pitching out of the stretch and guys are on base and he's getting that pitch count high. You want to see maybe one more of these before you expect that, that other game that he seems to throw. So I was impressed. I don't know if this is the best he looked, but I thought he was really impressive.
Yeah, he went 77 strong pitches. I thought, if it weren't for the double that he gave up with the bases empty, where he had to come out after that, I think had he given up a single, maybe he would have stayed in. You get a chance at a ground ball. He had 9-10 ground ball outs tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was working. That slider when you mentioned the slider, he was dotting the outside corner to the right-handers with the slider, just consistently backdooring them. I mean, it was a fantastic pitch for him tonight. Kept the ball in the yard, which was great because we know he has a tendency to give up home runs.
Mm-hmm.
This was a good building block game for him too, because I looked at his splits earlier this morning, and he has a tendency to not be as good at Oracle, but you didn't have a ton of wind. You didn't have a lot of, he wasn't living too much up in the zone. And I think he was just blowing fastballs by people, which again, we don't necessarily see a lot of from Kyle Harrison. Only had a couple of strikeouts, but like they said in the broadcast, the the Astros are a hard team to strike out. But no, I thought this was a really good building block game for Harrison.
Yeah, love to see it again. I want to see him build on these kinds of arts, like you just said. So that will be good to see. And then Hicks and Webb to close out this series. All right, that is it from here. So for Brad, I am Double G. Giants win 3. Wait, was it 3-2? 4-3? 4-3. Gosh,
4-3.
Just kind of I screw up the inning. I just recapped the whole stupid thing.
Such a low scoring game. There's so much excitement at the end.
Giants win 4-3. They moved within 1 game of 500. That's the next step. Get back over 500 and stay there. All right. See you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.